The video here. Okay, there we go. When this whole COVID-19 thing happened, some of our clubs went through shock. And I say some of our clubs, some of our Toastmaster clubs went through a real shock. There are some clubs, and I'm not talking weak clubs. I'm talking some strong clubs that simply stopped meeting. We can't meet in person, where they just, okay, well, we're gonna. I mean, they might be planning on coming back when the COVID-19 is over, assuming the club can pull itself back together. But there are some clubs that just stopped meeting, and there are other clubs that took their time moving slowly online. I confess that my club, we moved online smoothly, but it was partially because we have a member of our club who is immune system compromised, and she'd let us know that in advance. And we had somebody else who's married to somebody who's immune system compromised, and they were watching this COVID-19 thing really seriously, and they told us one week, well, we just can't come anymore until this crisis has passed. And some of us talked about it. I said, well, we don't want them to be isolated at home alone, so we brought equipment, and we set up a meeting, a Zoom account, and we had our normal meeting in our room, but we invited those two people to come join us. And what we didn't realize what we were doing, but what we were doing was we were creating a hybrid meeting. And then a week or two after that, we couldn't meet at all. You know, our venue shut down, and the governor said, you know, don't get together with anybody. And so we simply took the logical step and moved online. And a lot of us are adapting to online. A lot of us are learning a little bit about what's involved in doing this thing online, but that enforced isolation is coming to an end. So what I want to talk to you about today is, do we want to consider having a hybrid club when we no longer are forced to not meet anymore? And I'm going to share my screen so I can go over a few of the things to think about. So the question we're asking is, are we going to zoom into the future? Do we want to be a hybrid club? Now, by hybrid, I'm talking about two things that don't necessarily belong together. Two things that, you know, when you first look at it, you kind of go, huh? So here's an example of a hybrid, in my opinion. Now, why would you want to choose to be a hybrid club? Well, one, even after the governors tell us we are no longer have to stay isolated, we're still going to have vulnerable members of our population. The member of my club who is immune system compromised is not going to suddenly have a better immune system. Neither is the spouse of the other member. Those people are still going to be worried, and they may be worried about a return of COVID-19 or something else. So we may need to give them the ability to join us online so that they can protect their loved ones or themselves. We may want to keep some long distance members. A beloved member of my club is talking that she may have to move to California for her work. We don't want to lose her. We'd love to keep her as a member of the club. I'm going to jump to the fourth bullet, which is, we are learning about how to communicate online. Now, that may not have been our goal when we joined Toastmasters. We may have joined to learn public speaking. Well, I can tell you that some of the things that people have been learning, I'm getting stories from people all across the district about how what they're learning and what they're doing and what they've seen in their clubs is helping them at work. I have friends who've said, you know, my work didn't know what to do. I came in, set up the Zoom account, showed them how to meet, showed them how to do stuff, and now that Toastmaster is the hero because they got people working. And lastly, and this is kind of the neat thing to think about. Some of us, like the PA club in Port Angeles and my club, Squim, we are limited in geography. So most of the time when we are seeking members, we've been seeking members in our geography. What if geography wasn't a limitation? What if we could reach out to underserved communities like Forks, way out there 2 hours away? They have no Toastmaster club and no way for anybody there to participate in the program. unless they come online. Or we decide we're going to be, I don't know, the club could focus on a demographic that has nothing to do with geography and has everything to do with the nature of the club. So there's some opportunities here for clubs to think about reinventing themselves. Now, what do you need to do if you want to be a hybrid club? Well, here's what you need. So you're going on the right side of the screen, you have online participants, either on their phone or on their computer. And of course, their computers have to have cameras and they have to have microphones and you have to have sound. And you have to have in the center is a high-speed internet connection and a conferencing tool. Most of us are using Zoom. A lot of our clubs have bought Zoom. The district has bought Zoom. Every division director in District 32 has a Zoom account and they can loan it out to clubs if need be. But if you're going to have a hybrid, then you have to have a computer in the room, in the main meeting room. And that computer needs to have a microphone, sound, and camera. And I think it needs to have a mobile microphone. And I'll show you what a mobile camera microphone. And I'll show you one in a second. They're not very expensive. And of course, you need your in-room participants. Whoops. You need your in-room participants. Now, a mobile camera. I would show you the one I'm using, the one that just sits on top of my on the top of my monitor. But if I picked it up, you couldn't see me, and I can't show you it with it. So, but I have a mobile camera. It's not this model, but it's one like it, and it just connects to my computer with a USB port. And the useful thing about having one of these is, if I'm at the club and somebody is speaking, not somebody up in front of the room. I mean, if somebody's up in front of the room, I can aim the camera at them. I can point the camera at them. But what happens if the grammarian is speaking from the other side? Well, I can take the camera and I can just turn it towards them. And it has a microphone built right into it. So I can pick up pretty much anybody I point the camera at, and I'm not picking up the laptop and moving it around, and that's really awkward and disturbing. This is much more subtle. I can just sit there and aim it at whoever is speaking, and that way everybody online gets to see what's going on. So, and these are not expensive. You can pick these up for as little as $20, $25 on Amazon. You can go a little more expensive if you want a little better quality. But they're not that expensive. Now, how do you set up the room for a hybrid meeting? Well, I'm not suggesting this is the only way a room could be set up, but this is my take on it. You want the lectern up in front of the room. You want the audience facing the lectern. I happen to have a drawing here of auditorium style. I know that the PA club likes to use a U-shaped table. I love that. But you want to have, the key thing is you want to have the people who are online being displayed over on the side of the room. Now, in our club, we use a projector and we have a screen. But I know with the PA club and also with the sound advice club that I'm a part of, we have a big TV on the wall and the computer's connected to the big TV. So that would be perfectly fine. You don't even need the projector if you can connect your laptop up to the TV, and all the online participants can be seen up there. So that's kind of the room setup. And of course, the little camera here in the center is the little camera that I can pick up and move around and point wherever it needs to be. What will a hybrid club require of us? Because it's going to take a little extra thought, a little extra work. First of all, if we decide we're going to have a hybrid club, we need to have a slightly open attitude about it, because we're going to need to figure it out. We're going to have to maintain this role of Zoom master, even while having a sergeant at arms and maybe a guest welcomer in the room. We're going to have a Zoom master, somebody to run the computer and handle the online participation. But here's the more important stuff. Here's the things that's going to take more thought, but it's also where the learning is. How do online members impact my speech? If I'm speaking online, how does that, or if some of my audience is online and some of it's in the room, how does that impact my ability to speak? If I'm the Toastmaster, and some of my speakers in the room and some of my speakers are online. How does that impact my Toastmastering? What kind of, how do we ensure all the equipment is there? So that's, that may fall under the purview of the sergeant at arms, but maybe not. Now, I am not suggesting that your club should be a hybrid club. I am not suggesting your club shouldn't be. What I am suggesting is that all of us that are meeting online, when we can finally get in a room together, we shouldn't just assume that everybody wants to be in the room and that everybody can be in the room. And we shouldn't just assume that anyone who doesn't show up isn't showing up because they're no longer interested. We should talk to each other. We are, after all, a Toastmasters group. We should make a deliberate decision about whether or not we want to have a hybrid component in our club, whether we want to allow some of our members to stay online and maybe even grow that online component. Now, I can tell you I'm a member of the Sound Advice Advanced Club, and we didn't call it that, but we've been a hybrid club for a couple of years now. But that was because we had past district directors from Alaska who came and joined the club. And we had to find ways for them to participate. And that hybrid portion, that online portion, has been growing and growing and growing with that club. So it can work. So do you want to zoom into the future? Do you want to have a hybrid club?